My roommate gave me a pair of brand-name sneakers for my birthday, but I immediately threw them to a disease-ridden beggar on the street because in my previous life I accepted these sneakers and wore them to work out every day. However, my health deteriorated. I gained weight just from drinking water and panted heavily just climbing stairs. Eventually, I became a greasy, obese man, forced to hide in my dorm and isolate myself. My roommate, on the other hand, was completely reborn. He had a second growth spurt, reaching 1.85 meters, and became a heartthrob chased by all the girls in school. My parents also became increasingly unlucky. The restaurant they painstakingly ran was slandered by a food review streamer and ultimately went bankrupt. When they went to demand an explanation, they were run over by a truck on the way. I also had one of my legs broken by the streamer's fan. Meanwhile, my roommate's lazy parents won a multi-million lottery jackpot, leaping into the upper class overnight. In the end, I was left homeless, dragging a crippled leg, wandering the streets, fighting wild dogs for food. After a heavy snowstorm, I froze to death. My roommate's family sat in the restaurant across the street, laughing that I deserved it. Unexpectedly, when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my roommate gave me those brand-name sneakers. Brother Joe. Thinking of what I suffered in my past life, I wanted nothing more than to smash these size 42 sneakers right in his face. But I quickly regained my composure and began to think. In my past life, after I accepted these sneakers, my health started to go downhill, and I grew increasingly unlucky. This obviously couldn't be explained by common sense. Jung Fong must have used some mysterious power. If I rejected him directly right now, I would likely alert the enemy, making him suspicious. Then, whatever tricks he'd use to sabotage me next, I wouldn't be able to predict. At this moment, seeing no reaction from me, Jung Fong got a bit anxious. Brother Joe, why aren't you saying anything? Do you not like them? I know brand names might be nothing to you, but my family is poor, not wealthy like yours. I used the money I earned from part-time jobs, saved up for a long time to buy these. His dejected look quickly drew our roommates to speak up for him. Joe, hi. Aren't you two good brothers? This is Xiao Feng's heartfelt gesture. Just accept it. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Trying to guilt-trip me? However, I decided to play along and accepted the sneakers. Xiao Feng, what are you saying? We are the best of brothers. How could I not accept them? I was just too moved just now and didn't react in time. But I can't just take your gift for nothing. Everyone come out to eat with me tonight. My treat. As soon as I said this, the crowd cheered, praising me for being awesome. Jung Feng also laughed along, but I still caught that flash of malice in his eyes. He thought everything was under his control. Unfortunately, the one holding the upper hand this time is me. When night came, I kept my promise and brought everyone to a hotel restaurant near the school. I ordered a huge feast. My roommates ate to their heart's content, and even Jung Feng lost the focus to keep an eye on me. He wanted to taste every single dish and chugged several bottles of beer. His face flushed red. After all, his monthly allowance was only 500, and he could only afford the cheapest meals at the cafeteria. Now that he could freeload, naturally he couldn't hold back. Taking advantage of this opportunity, I excused myself to pay the bill and use the restroom, then slipped out with my bag. However, right after paying, I walked out of the hotel doors and turned into a small alley nearby. At the end of the alley, an elderly man in rags was digging through the trash, coughing from time to time. His name was Old Mo. He often picked through trash in this area, and I had seen him many times. I heard he used to be a business owner in his youth, with quite a large business. Sadly, in his later years, an investment failed and he went bankrupt. His wife died of illness, and his children kicked him out of the house. He had been wandering the streets for nearly 10 years now, and the reason I sought him out today was for an opportunity that would allow both him and me to change our fates. According to memories from my past life, I deduced that the sneakers Jung Feng gave me were related to exchanging fates. My health worsened, and I became obese. He had a second growth spurt and became handsome. My parents went bankrupt. His parents won the lottery. I became homeless. His family bought a mansion. All of these correlated directly. Although I didn't know exactly how he did it yet, I had already figured out a countermeasure, which was to give the shoes to someone with terrible luck. And Old Mo was the perfect candidate. Upon seeing me, Old Mo greeted me warmly. Young Master Zhou, why are you visiting this old man again? Thanks to the blanket you gave me last time, my old bones didn't freeze to death, and I can still collect scraps to earn a living. Uncle Mo, I brought you something good this time too. With that, I pulled out the brand-name sneakers. Old Mo was momentarily stunned and immediately tried to decline. Young Master Zhou, these are such nice new shoes. You should keep them for yourself. Giving them to a wretched old man like me, isn't that a waste of God's good gifts? Hearing this, I felt a wave of emotion and plunged into hesitation. Old Mo was already a poor, unfortunate soul. What if these sneakers had some mechanism I didn't anticipate and ended up harming him even more? Seeing my silence, Old Mo seemed to guess something. Does young Master Zhou have an unspeakable secret? Is it related to these shoes? I nodded. Old Mo also fell silent, but a moment later, he burst into laughter. If that's the case, this old man will accept the shoes. My old shoes are falling apart anyway. With that, he kicked off his old, torn shoes on the spot, took the sneakers, and put them on. We were still drinking, and Zhang Feng was already dead drunk, completely unaware that I had stepped out. This was perfect. Let him pay the price without even realizing it. However, the next day, as soon as I woke up, I was blocked by Zhang Feng. Looking at me, barely awake. Zhang Feng had a stern expression. Joe, hi. Did you forget something? I was momentarily stunned. What are you talking about? Aren't I just going to get breakfast? The shoes I gave you. I haven't seen you wear them since yesterday. Are you looking down on them? I considered you a brother and skimped and saved to buy them for you. Is this how you repay me? He spoke very loudly, quickly attracting the other roommates. They began to persuade me. Heizi, we're all good brothers living under one roof. Don't let this ruin the mood. Yeah, don't be stubborn. Just put the shoes on. Seeing that the roommates supported him, Zhang Feng looked extremely smug. Joe, hi. Did you hear that? Hurry up and put the shoes on, and we can still be brothers. However, I remained calm. Even if you didn't say it, I was planning to wear them. It's just that I washed them yesterday, and they're still drying on the balcony. With that, I turned and walked to the balcony, took out those sneakers, and put them on in front of everyone. Zhang Feng at me suspiciously, seeming a bit unconvinced, and tried to reach out and touch them, but I swatted his hand away. Zhang Feng, I've already put them on. What more do you want? Trying to touch my feet. Do you have some weird fetish? As soon as I said this, the other roommates froze, looking at Zhang Feng in disbelief. Zhang Feng also looked embarrassed and quickly retracted his hand. What nonsense are you saying? I just wanted to see if the shoes were dry yet. Since you've got them on, let's head out and get breakfast together. With that, he was the first to walk out the door, but looking at his back, I let out a sneer. Sure enough, when Zhang Feng sobered up, he realized he might have been set up. So he put on this act this morning to test me. Too bad he didn't know. The moment I got those sneakers, I immediately ordered the exact same pair online. They arrived just last night, and just like that, I smoothly navigated the first crisis. Next up, it was time to see the effects of those sneakers. The first morning, everything was as calm as usual. Zhang Feng kept staring at me, his face full of disdain and smugness. After all, in his eyes, everything of mine would sooner or later belong to him. Under this mentality, he became increasingly arrogant, even mocking me passive-aggressively. Some people, always feeling so good about themselves, actually have no idea what they're truly worth. Too bad fakes are ultimately fakes. They are bound to be exposed sooner or later. But I acted as if I didn't hear him, and quietly continued with my own business. In my past life, after I became an obese man, I was despised by almost everyone, forced to hole up in my dorm to rot and stink, and my college life, along with my family's bankruptcy, eventually came to an end. Now, fortunate enough to be reborn, I realized how precious those ordinary days, which I casually wasted in the past, truly were. So, not only do I need to shatter Zhang Feng's conspiracy, I also want to make my life even more brilliant. To achieve this goal, I formulated a comprehensive training plan. During the day, when not in class, I went to the library to diligently study exercises and read extensively. When night fell, I went to the track to exercise, persisting to temper my will and strengthen my body. At the same time, I actively participated in class affairs and even planned to run for the student council. Even when staying in the dorm, unlike before when I only played games, I posted my clumsy gaming moments and funny anecdotes on social platforms because the content was interesting and documented real boys' dorm life. It actually gained some traction. Zhang Feng saw all of this, but he wasn't anxious at all. In fact, he was quite pleased. Brother Zhou, you finally found your talent. I've always thought you were funny, perfect for being an influencer. Go ahead and do it without worry. If you need anything, just come to me. In Zhang Feng's eyes, no matter how well I did now, it would all be swapped to him eventually. Unfortunately, he never expected that a few days later, his own bad luck would begin. After my training plan had been running for a week, changes also appeared on Zhang Feng's end. The most obvious one was that his appetite drastically increased. Someone who used to be full after 2 steamed buns a meal now had an appetite like a bottomless pit. He was hungry 24 hours a day. Dorm head Li Hao walked in carrying a freshly bought braised chicken, just getting ready to dig in. Zhang Feng suddenly sidled over with a cheeky grin. Brother Hao, this smells too good. Let me have a taste. I didn't even eat breakfast today. I'm about to faint from hunger, but I haven't eaten either. Fine, just one bite. With that, he handed over the lunchbox. As a result, with one swipe of his chopsticks, Zhang Feng took away half the chicken, leaving only a bit of soup and some potato chunks. He also scarfed down half the bowl of rice, wolfing it down. Li Hao flared up on the spot. Are you sick? You said one bite, and you finished half my bowl. Brother Hao, we're tight, right? I'll treat you next time. But his words were just a blank check. Over the next few days, no matter who brought food back, he would go over for a bite. He didn't even spare the food brought by students in the next dorm, taking out a third of it in one bite. When students angrily confronted him, he would play the victim. My allowance for this month is almost gone. My family's condition isn't good. It's not easy for my parents to earn money. We're all classmates. Just bear with me. Just like that, he offended almost all the students nearby. However, what was even more maddening were his feet, which suddenly became unbelievably smelly. In recent days, his feet smelled as if they had been soaked in a septic tank, emitting a foul stench. Roommates advised him multiple times to wash his feet, but he didn't care, still fantasizing about transferring it to me via the sneakers. Until one day, his stinky feet finally caused a disaster. That day, our department held a long-awaited friendly football match. As old football buddies, Zhang Feng and I naturally both signed up to participate. However, this time, using feeling unwell as an excuse, I stepped back as a substitute, letting Zhang Feng become a starter. He was quite pleased with himself over this, thinking the sneakers were taking effect. He even deliberately mocked me. Brother Zhou, you need to take care of your health. How did you get so weak at such a young age? You're not going to be useless from now on, are you? It's okay. Just watch me lead our department department to the championship this time. However, once the match started, Zhang Feng screwed up big time. When the situation was the most intense and everyone was dripping with sweat, Zhang Feng got even more anxious. Trying to intercept the opponent's ball, he used too much force and actually flung his shoe off. The smell of heavily sweaty feet instantly permeated half the field. The students nearby almost threw up on the spot. Holy crap, Zhang Feng, are your feet a biological weapon? That's too smelly. Stay away from me. It's making my eyes water. Zhang Feng instantly flew into a rage from humiliation. Isn't it normal to sweat a bit playing football? You guys are way too delicate. But no matter how he argued, the referee still sent him off the field, and I took his place on the field, leading the team to a smooth victory and winning the championship. This time, Zhang Feng was furious. After returning to the dorm, he took off his shoes, eating snacks while swearing at people. The dorm instantly filled with a smell like rotten eggs. Li Hao couldn't take it anymore. Zhang Feng, can you go see a doctor? Your feet are so smelly we can't even stay in the dorm. Dorm head, where would I get the money? How about you pay for me? Besides, I just sweated a bit, and you think I'm sick. Li Hao was so angry he couldn't speak for a long time, and could only slam the door and leave. But unexpectedly, Zhang Feng held a grudge against him for that remark. When no one was in the dorm, he used his smelly, sweat-soaked feet and stepped all over Li Hao's pillow several times. When the next day came, something indeed happened to Li Hao. Early that morning, we were all up, but Li Hao was still lying in bed. Roommate Xiao Liang joked at first, asking if he was having a wet dream, but then we noticed he was completely motionless. We instantly sensed something was wrong. Sure enough, when we pulled back his blanket, a foul stench hit us, and Li Hao had already fainted from the smell. Terrified, we quickly called 120, and an ambulance took him to the hospital. After this incident, no one in the entire dorm dared to interact with Zhang Feng anymore, much less let him freeload meals. Hungry to the point of seeing stars, Zhang Feng completely lost his bottom line, and set his sights on the takeout locker downstairs. He specifically stole unclaimed takeout orders. After succeeding several times, he became increasingly brazen. But within a couple of days, someone tracked him down. That night, 7 or 8 furious guys kicked open our dorm door. The leader yelled at us, "Who in your dorm is stealing takeout? Stealing our dorm's food for 3 days straight. That's too much. Don't argue." We checked the surveillance cameras. It was someone from your dorm. Of course, to everyone's surprise, Zhang Feng didn't panic. Instead, he stepped forward first. "Fellow students, although this is betraying my brother, I still have to say it. This takeout was stolen by Zhou Hai in our dorm. I saw it with my own eyes." With that, he looked at me with a pained expression. "Zhou Hai, I never expected, with your family being so well off." With that, he dragged out a few empty takeout boxes from under my bed. They were exactly the stolen ones. Now everyone looked at me, their eyes full of suspicion. But I didn't panic at all. Instead, I revealed a cold smile. Zhang Feng thought I was cornered, but little did he know, I had absolute evidence. Facing everyone's doubts, I calmly replied, "You suspect me of stealing takeout. I have no problem with that. But doing so based on someone's words, and a pile of takeout boxes placed by who knows who, that's just too ridiculous." With that, I looked at my roommate Xiao Liang. "Xiao Liang, I've gone to the cafeteria with you every day lately. Do you remember?" Xiao Liang nodded, confirming what I said was true. On the contrary, for Zhang Feng, no one has seen him go to the cafeteria these past few days. Who knows how he's been eating? At these words, everyone's gaze focused on Zhang Feng. He panicked instantly, pointed at me and started cursing. "Zhou Hai, you're spitting blood. Xiao Liang is close to you. Of course he speaks for you. If you have the guts, let's check the cameras. Surveillance doesn't lie. We'll see how you deal with it then." "Fine by me. Let's check, so a certain someone can die knowing why." And so, the dozen or so of us crowded into the dorm manager's office. The old dorm manager was startled, almost thinking we were staging a rebellion. After much persuasion, the manager pulled up the takeout locker footage. In the video, the person stealing the takeout was completely covered up, making his face impossible to see. But the trendy hoodie he wore was exactly the same as mine. "Zhou Hai, now you've been caught red-handed. What else do you have to say?" The guys whose food was stolen saw red, clenched their fists, and wanted to rush over to beat me up. Xiao Liang hurriedly stepped in front of me to defend me, but I pulled him behind me instead. There wasn't a trace of panic on my face. What's the rush? The camera didn't catch the face, but I have crystal clear evidence right here. With that, I took out my phone and opened a pre-saved video. It turned out every time I left to eat, I turned on my laptop's webcam, because Zhang Feng was afraid of being discovered. He always picked this time to eat the stolen takeout. As a result, he was filmed perfectly. Now, he was completely panicked, trembling as he tried to argue. But the dorm manager's door was suddenly pushed open. Our counselor had actually arrived. Seeing the counselor enter with a dark face, Zhang Feng immediately stepped forward, attempting to continue his deception. "Teacher, you finally came. If you hadn't come, Zhou Hai would have framed me to death. He insists that I stole the takeout, and is using an AI-generated fake video to spread fallacies and deceive people." However, right as he finished speaking, the counselor's expression grew even worse. It turned out that before we even came to check the cameras, I had already sent the video and the whole story to the counselor. By saying this now, Zhang Feng only made himself look guiltier. Seeing the time was right, I stopped pretending. "Teachers, classmates, I actually have some more videos that I'd like to show everyone." With that, I displayed the video of Zhang Feng previously stepping on Li Hao's pillow with his stinky feet. In an instant, everyone was plunged into shock. Some students even felt like vomiting from disgust, and Zhang Feng was completely dumbfounded. "It's not like that. They are framing me." Unfortunately, the ironclad evidence was there. Nothing he said was of any use. In the end, Then, Zhang Feng received a serious disciplinary warning from the school. Not only did he have to fully compensate the students for their takeout losses, he also had to apologize door to door. Some nosy student even posted the whole incident on the confession wall, turning Zhang Feng into the laughingstock of the entire department. By the time he finished apologizing and returned to the dorm, it was late into the night. Seeing I wasn't asleep yet, he crawled into his stinky bed and started to sleep soundly. I didn't take his threats seriously either. After all, at this rate, Zhang Feng would soon end up begging on the streets. How could he bother me? However, I didn't expect that the power behind him was far from as simple as I thought. After the takeout incident, Zhang Feng completely became an existence despised by everyone in school. Not only did no one in our dorm talk to him, but guys from other dorms also avoided him like the plague. Under these circumstances, his emotions became increasingly unstable. He skipped classes all day to hole up in the dorm, didn't wash his face, didn't brush his teeth, and emitted a lingering greasy smell. His once somewhat handsome face was visibly more bloated. He gained almost 20 pounds in just half a month. Now, he panted heavily holding onto the wall just climbing to the 3rd floor. He looked exactly like I did in my past life. However, this day, I returned to the dorm from the library early. Right when I got to the door, I heard Zhang Feng muttering nervously to himself inside. System, what's going on? Joe Hai wears those fate-swapping sneakers every day. Why hasn't any of his fortune come over? Now I'm getting unluckier and unluckier. Did something go wrong with your shoes? He sounded like he was talking to something invisible. His tone was urgent and resentful. Fine, enough with this useless talk. Give me a stronger item. This time I'm going to directly swap everything he has and make it quick. Hearing this, I froze on the spot. Though I had guessed earlier that he used some evil supernatural method, I never expected that he had actually bound a system that could swap destinies. Faced with something so beyond common sense, how was I supposed to deal with it? As I was contemplating this, the phone in my pocket suddenly buzzed. It was a text message, but the sender shocked me once again. It was old Mo, who had taken those sneakers. He wanted to see me. When I saw old Mo again, it was at a tea house near the school. He looked like a completely different person. Gone was his past distress. He was dressed spotlessly and looked much more energetic. I almost didn't recognize him and only exclaimed after a delayed reaction, "Uncle Mo, what happened to you?" Old Mo smiled and poured me a cup of tea. His tone gentle. "Little Joe, I know you're surprised. Let me explain it slowly. It turned out that ever since wearing those sneakers, old Mo's health grew tougher by the day. His years of back and leg pains completely disappeared. His old coughing issue didn't flare up again. He was even more agile at picking scraps than others. A week ago, he ran into a little girl on the street crying for her mother and safely brought her home. The woman who opened the door teared up instantly upon seeing him, holding him back from leaving. After talking for a long while, old Mo discovered she was actually his own niece. Old Mo's older brother had passed away early, and he had raised this niece single-handedly, treating her as his own. Years ago, when he went bankrupt and was kicked out by his children, his niece was studying abroad, so she had no idea. When she returned, his unfilial children lied that old Mo had run away and gone missing. But all these years, she never gave up searching. She never expected they would reunite in this way. Learning of what her uncle had gone through all these years, the niece broke down crying. That very day, she took old Mo home and cared for him meticulously. Hearing this, I couldn't help but marvel. "Uncle Mo, your suffering has finally paid off. This good life was given by you. I know in my heart that you giving me the shoes probably involved some unspeakable secret." Hearing this, I decided to hide it no longer and told him everything about Zhang Feng using evil sneakers to swap my fate. However, I omitted the part about my rebirth, as it sounded just too absurd. Old Mo pondered for a long time after hearing it and gave me surprising news. A friend he knew might be able to help me solve this bizarre matter. The next day, I asked for leave and set off on a journey with old Mo. We first took a train for 2 hours, then transferred to a bus, a taxi, and then caught a 3-wheeled motorcycle. Finally, after walking for 2 kilometers, we arrived at a remote village hidden in a mountain valley. Under the villagers' guidance, we reached an old wooden house deep within the village and knocked on the door. The person who opened the door was a lively young girl. Seeing old Mo, she smiled and called out, "Grandpa Mo, Grandma already foresaw your arrival. She's waiting inside." After entering, looking at the room full of strange compasses, herbs, and thread-bound books, I felt a bit skeptical. "Uncle Mo, this isn't some fraudulent charlatan, is it? It doesn't seem very reliable." Before I even finished speaking, a gentle voice came from the corner. "Young man, it's not good to gossip behind people's backs. I'm just a village doctor, not a charlatan." I followed the voice and looked over and saw an old lady sitting in a wheelchair looking at us. It was Dr. He. Old Mo couldn't help but sigh. "Haven't seen you in over 20 years. You've grown old too. I'm no immortal. How can people not age?" Perhaps those people from back then could. Seemingly not wanting to dive deep into that topic, Dr. He looked at me. "You came here this time for your young friend, right? If I'm not mistaken, this isn't the first time you've encountered such strange occurrences." I widened my eyes. She actually saw through my identity as a reincarnator. I immediately dropped all my contempt and spilled everything truthfully. Dr. He listened, pondered for a moment, and said, "I'm old and can't handle the journey, but my adopted granddaughter Cui has learned my skills for over 10 years. This time, let her go with you to gain some experience." I looked at Cui beside us, a bit doubtful. Can she really do it? But Cui immediately retorted, "That's nothing in my eyes." At this time, Cui and I didn't know that a dangerous and thrilling adventure had quietly begun. That night, old Mo and I stayed in the village for a night. The next day, before leaving, Dr. He prepared a copper coin pendant for me. "Little Joe, keep this on you. Next time you encounter Zhang Feng playing tricks, just look through the hole of the copper coin and you'll be able to see what he did. With that, she handed a brocade pouch to Cui Cui. Cui Cui, I know you're impulsive. This is your first time going to the city. Don't act rashly when things happen. In this pouch is my brilliant plan. Open it when you face a dilemma, and it will help you break out of the crisis. Grandma, don't worry. I'll come back as soon as I finish handling things over there. Doctor, he didn't say anything else. Just rubbed Cui Cui's head and watched us leave. Walking the same route back, we finally returned to the city. But by then, it was already dusk. Since Cui Cui had never ridden in a car for so long, she was a bit dizzy. So old Mo took her to his niece's home to rest first, and we planned to meet tomorrow to start the investigation. And I returned to my dorm. As soon as I entered, I sensed something was wrong. The formerly filthy dorm had actually become tidy. Even the foul smell was gone. As I was wondering about this, Zhang Feng and Xiao Liang suddenly pushed the door open and returned. Brother Zhou, you're back so early. The alcohol we ordered hasn't even arrived yet. The Zhang Feng in front of me lost the greasiness from the past few days and looked very friendly. I became instantly alert. What are you planning? Don't try to play tricks on me. Oh, come on, don't be like that. I was indeed a bit out of my mind lately, but now I know I was wrong. Roommates should get along well, right? Xiao Liang also told me Zhang Feng had really been doing well these past few days. Not only did he clean the dorm, he also initiated ordering food and buying drinks, wanting to mend our relationship. However, I knew he definitely had ulterior motives for doing this, but it didn't matter. I would just play along and see what scheme he was up to. That night, Zhang Feng indeed secretly brought alcohol and dishes in. Because Li Hao was still resting at home, there were only the three of us in the dorm, so we set up a table on the balcony and started drinking. After a few rounds, Xiao Liang was dead drunk and went to bed first. I was also feeling a bit tipsy, but still kept a close eye on Zhang Feng, not daring to slack off. Zhang Feng, on the other hand, was calm and collected, and even toasted me. Brother Zhou, let me offer you another toast. I'm really sorry about the things before. From today on, let bygones be bygones. We are still good brothers. I didn't reply, just silently raised my glass in return. In my memory, Zhang Feng's alcohol tolerance was very poor, but tonight he acted as if he could hold 1,000 cups without getting drunk. This wasn't right. Very wrong. Highly suspicious. So I also kept my guard up and secretly poured out some of my drink to avoid getting drunk myself. Finally, the alcohol was gone and the food was all eaten. Zhang Feng burped, rolled into bed, and fell into a deep sleep. After washing up, I groggily got into bed. In a half-asleep state, I felt as if I was in a room filled with floral scents, making me very comfortable. But soon after, that floral scent turned into a foul stench. I began having trouble breathing, struggling desperately to escape. But the air in the room suddenly felt like it had weight, pressing me down so I couldn't move, and a pitch-black shadow was slowly approaching me. I instantly realized if I was touched by that thing, nothing good would come of it. But I couldn't move. What should I do? Just at this critical moment, a sound suddenly rang out. I was instantly jolted awake from the nightmare and found myself covered in cold sweat. In my hand, I was tightly clutching the copper coin Doctor he gave me. The dorm was completely quiet at this moment, and everything seemed normal. But when I looked through the hole of the copper coin towards Zhang Feng's bed, my breathing stopped instantly. Hovering above his bed was exactly the black shadow I saw in my dream. That night, I didn't sleep a wink until the next morning, when that black shadow gradually disappeared. I finally, bearing dark circles under my eye, fled the dorm. When I reached the school gates, Cui Cui was already waiting for me. Your school is so big. If a pretty older sister hadn't shown me the way, I wouldn't have even found the main gate. What's with your dark circles? Did you not sleep last night? I sighed and took her to the cafeteria to buy breakfast first. After sitting down, I slowly recounted the events of last. After hearing it, Cui Cui drank her soy milk while looking thoughtful. From your description, that black shadow should be the effect of the new item the system gave Zhang Feng. However, just with this information, it's still not clear what its specific mechanics are. If only I could see it up close, maybe I could figure something out. Too bad I can't see him. Coincidentally enough, just as Cui Cui finished speaking, I heard Zhang Feng's voice. Brother Zhou, getting breakfast so early. Why did you bring a little sister along? He stood not far away, looking at us with a smile, which was very eerie. Cui Cui immediately hid behind me, looking at Zhang Feng warily, and I replied coldly, she's a child from my relative's family, planning to apply to our school next year, so she's hanging around here late. Hearing this, Zhang Feng sized us up and finally smiled disdain. Is that so? Then I won't disturb you. Have fun taking your sister around. If you need any help, look for me. With that, he swaggered away. At this point, Cui Cui whispered to me, the aura on this guy is very wrong. Feels like there's an evil energy. Brother Zhou, he's definitely going to make a move on you again. Very likely tonight. I thought the same thing. But right now, we were in the light and he was in the dark. It's impossible to defend effectively. Suddenly, I remembered someone. A crucial person. Perhaps he knew where Zhang Feng's power came from. After deciding on the target, I quickly opened my phone to browse live streams and quickly found that person's account. The unscrupulous food review streamer who pushed my family's restaurant to a dead end in my past life and indirectly killed my parent. Lao Pao. I remember when I was homeless in my past life, I once saw him and Zhang Feng meeting under a bridge with my own eyes. Thinking about it now, these two were probably in cahoots all along. Following Lao Pao's video location tag, Cui Cui and I quickly found the restaurant he was at. As soon as we walked in, we saw him eating noodles. However, before taking a few bites, he pulled out a small bottle and poured something into his noodles. Right after, he pointed his phone at the noodle and shouted angrily, Fam, we've stepped on another landmine today. An old shop open for over 10 years, feeding customers noodles with maggots. If this isn't a crooked business, what is? Today, Lao Pao must seek justice for everyone. With that, he stopped recording and looked at the panicking female owner nearby. Seeing as this is your first offense, I'll give you a chance. One lump sum, 10,000 yuan hush money. Transfer it right now, and I'll delete the video immediately. We'll pretend this didn't happen today. Otherwise, your shop's reputation will be ruined in the streets. Within half a month, your shop will go out of business. The boss lady had never seen such a scene and was frightened to tears. Trembling, she tried to pull out her phone to pay. This infuriated Chui Chui. Too shameless. How can he bully people like this? She spoke as she was about to step forward, but I stopped her. Don't be impulsive. If you go up now, he'll say we're in cahoots with the shop owner. You wait here. Let me handle him. With that, I rushed over, feigning excitement. Holy crap! Isn't this Brother Pao? I'm a hardcore fan. I watch you expose crooked businesses every day. It's so righteous. Hearing this, Lao Pao looked me up and down, looking disdainful. What? You want a picture? Absolutely, Brother Pao. But I couldn't help recording you just now. I wanted to show you. How does it look? With that, I pulled out my phone. The people around were instantly stunned. On the phone screen was the complete footage of him secretly taking out the bottle and dropping stuff into his bowl. It was captured perfectly clearly. Lao Pao instantly froze and scrambled in a panic to grab my phone. What are you doing? Delete it right now. I casually stuffed the phone into my pocket. Just as I was about to chase him, Chui Chui suddenly pulled me back from behind. I saw her pull out 2 yellow talismans and firmly stick them to my shoes. What are you doing? These are the Wind Chaser talismans Grandma taught me. With these on, even 1,000 Li horse can't outrun you. As soon as she spoke, I felt wind under my feet, and my body became incredibly light. Once I started running, I felt my speed increasing rapidly. In less than half a minute, I cornered Lao Pao in the alley outside. At this time, Lao Pao was already out of breath. Seeing he had no way out, he actually swung his fists and charged at me. However, with just a light trip from me, his 200-plus pound body hit the ground, falling flat on his face. Now, he was completely subdued, hugging my leg and begging for mercy. Brother, it's all a misunderstanding. A flood washing away the Dragon King's temple, a friendly fire. Were you sent by competitors in the industry? You just want money, right? I'll give it to you. Okay? Name a price. I don't want your money. I'm just asking you. Zhang Feng. Do you know him? Unexpectedly, upon hearing the name Zhang Feng, Lao Pao, who was just bowing and scraping, instantly turned ashen. What Zhang Feng or Li Feng? I don't know him. Call the police if you have the guts. At this moment, Chui Chui also arrived, riding the restaurant owner's electric bike. As soon as she got off, she saw the shamelessly defiant Lao Pao and sneered instantly. With only this much courage, you still dare to do these wicked, unconscionable things? To deal with a hooligan like you, I have plenty of methods. Next, Chui Chui's methods truly opened my eyes. Facing Chui Chui's mockery, Lao Pao scoffed dismissively. Hilarious. I grew up on the streets. Why would I be afraid of a little brat like you? But the next second, he couldn't smile anymore. Chui Chui took a pinch of knockout incense from her cloth bag, lit it, and wafted it under his nose. Lao Pao, who was just cursing nonstop, fainted in the blink of an eye. Immediately after, she lit 3 incense sticks, tied a red string tightly to the base of the incense, and tied the other end around her own wrist. Finally, she placed those incense sticks into Lao Pao's half-open mouth. A moment later, Lao Pao started convulsing and foaming at the mouth, and Chui Chui's face grew increasingly pale. When the incense burned to the end, she finally untied the red string, but her hands were still trembling. How is it? What did you see? This bastard, over these years, relying on staged scams, he scammed dozens of small shops with malicious editing. All the blackmail material, videos, and chat logs used to threaten shop owners are kept intact. His phone is specifically used for extorting money. Speaking of this, she suddenly paused. Also, a week ago, he met with Zhang Feng in an alley. Zhang Feng stuffed a wad of cash to him, saying the next target was the Zhou family's restaurant in the south of the city, and that he must ruin it until they go bankrupt and close down. Hearing this, I felt a chill shoot from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. The Zhou family in the south of the city, that was my family's restaurant. If I had been a step later, the tragedy of my family being ruined from my past life would probably have repeated itself. However, what I was currently most concerned about was still Zhang Feng's system. Is there anything else? Chui Chui shook her head. He secretly followed Zhang Feng later and followed him all the way to an abandoned ancient well. But after that, I couldn't see anything anymore. It was as if someone deliberately wiped it away. At this point, we exchanged a glance, both seeing the gravity in each other's eyes. It seemed the secret behind Zhang Feng and the origin of that evil system were much deeper than we thought, and that abandoned well was probably the source of all the conspiracies. Before leaving, I searched Lao Pao and found the small bottle containing the maggots. This guy was quite cunning, even disguising it as a seasoning bottle. If you didn't open it, you really wouldn't notice. Then, I took Lao Pao's phone and uploaded the complete video of him pulling the scam today, along with all the blackmail material, videos, and chat logs in his phone used to threaten businesses, all published to his account with one click. The comments section blew up instantly, and private messages poured in. Watching me do this, Chui Chui couldn't help but laugh. That's a ruthless move, ruining his reputation completely. Consider it eliminating a menace for the people. Didn't he want to be famous? I'm just helping him get famous. I just don't know if he can handle this wave of popularity. After doing all this, Chui Chui and I first returned the electric bike to the restaurant owner, and then went to the city center together. Because it was Chui Chui Chui's first time in a big city. She was curious about everything on the street and bought lots of delicious food and fun things. But we didn't forget our main business. We soon arrived at Old Mo's workplace. He no longer collected scraps, but worked as a gatekeeper at the cultural center parking lot. This job was arranged by his niece. It wasn't tiring at all, purely to give Old Mo something to do to relieve boredom. After meeting, I relayed the intel gathered from Lao Pao and asked. Chui Chui saw an abandoned ancient well in Lao Pao's memory. We guess it might be the source of the system. Uncle Mo, you've been to many places and know this city better than we do. Do you recognize this well? Old Mo pondered for a moment and shook his head. I've collected scraps for so many years, you could say I know the city inside out. But this well you're talking about, I really can't recall it off the top of my head. Hearing this, Chui Chui and I immediately realized that if we didn't find the well today, it meant I would have to face that black shadow again tonight. Afraid I might have an accident tonight, Chui Chui advised me not to return to the dorm. But I shook my head and made up my mind. Hiding constantly is no solution. Who knows if that black shadow will come looking for me. So, it's better if I take the initiative to test Zhang Feng's true strength. Seeing me so resolute, Chui Chui had no choice and could only hand me a small sachet. This contains my hair and herbs. Keep it on you, and I will be able to share your senses. That way, if you run into danger, I can promptly help you think of countermeasures. Because Chui Chui didn't have a phone to make contact easier, I also left my backup phone with her. After doing all this, I waved goodbye to Old Mo and Chui Chui and returned to school alone. That night was destined to be a sleepless one. I lay in bed, daring not to fall asleep and daring not to make a sound, quietly waiting for that moment. Finally, at almost the exact same time as last night, that black shadow appeared again. As it gradually approached, that foul stench and suffocating feeling crawled all over me again. But it didn't last long. A warm current flowed from the sachet in my hand, dispersing that unpleasant feeling. Sure enough, Chui Chui sensed the anomaly on her end and activated countermeasures. A surge of fierce energy also rose in my heart, feeling power fill my entire body. The sachet also began to heat up, even becoming a bit scalding. Finally, just as the black shadow was about to reach for my head, I suddenly leapt up violently and smashed my hand holding the sachet ruthlessly onto the shadow. In my vision through the copper coin hole, the black shadow began to burn fiercely, wailing incessantly. It rapidly fled like a snake and quickly disappeared into the darkness. Zhang Feng also let out a miserable scream, his body trembling slightly. As expected, hurting the black shadow was equivalent to hurting him. This meant I had a way to deal with Zhang Feng. After defeating the black shadow, I finally had a good night's sleep. Early the next morning, I got up eagerly, wanting to see Zhang Feng's condition. However, right as I got out of bed, I saw Zhang Feng sitting at his desk, eating a fried dough stick. His face was rosy, and he was even humming a little tune, showing absolutely none of the wretchedness of his black shadow suffering a backlash last night. He even greeted me. "Morning, Brother Zhou. You're looking good today." I was instantly shocked. What was going on? Was my judgment yesterday completely wrong? The black shadow getting hurt didn't get shared with him at all? Because of this, during my major courses in the morning, I was totally distracted. It wasn't until right before class ended that I noticed Xiao Liang's seat was completely empty. What happened? Did he not come to class? After class, I found a classmate close to him to ask, "Xiao Liang, why didn't he come today?" The other guy sighed. "You don't know. Xiao Liang went to the cafeteria for breakfast this morning and accidentally spilled the porridge he just bought all over his arm. I heard his whole arm blistered up and he's already been sent to the hospital." As soon as he said this, I suddenly thought of something. That day we drank. Xiao Liang was the first to get drunk, but Zhang Feng seemed like he wouldn't get drunk from 1,000 cups. When I heavily injured the black shadow, Zhang Feng was perfectly fine, while Xiao Liang had an accident. A guess instantly surfaced in my mind. To verify it, I ran all over the teaching building, finding everyone who had contact with Zhang Feng recently. The results gave me the creeps. The study commissary who had conflicts with him had getting increasingly sick recently. The guy from the next dorm whose takeout was stolen gained 20 pounds in half a month, failing all his physical fitness tests. Even a girl who was in a group project with him contracted severe foot odor, and her boyfriend broke up with her because of it. Everyone who had contact with Zhang Feng suffered misfortune without exception. I instantly understood that the black shadow's ability was to transfer all negative effects on him onto others. But there was another question. I was the one he wanted to deal with. Why was I completely fine? To figure out the mechanics of Zhang Feng's ability, I started tailing Zhang Feng. When noon came, I saw him skip the cafeteria and instead slip into a secluded corner. After ensuring no one was around, he began questioning the air hysterically. "System, what is up with this broken shadow? Didn't you say it could definitely deal with Zhou Hai? Why did I get beaten up by him instead? What a piece of trash." I immediately hid behind a tree and raised the copper coin at him. Through the hole in the coin, I saw for the first time the floating system panel in front of him. A cold, mechanical voice also reached my ears. "Host need not be impatient. The stand-in shadow can transfer all negative effects to ordinary people you've made contact with. It will absolutely not harm you in the slightest." Zhang Feng was furious. "Then why can't I transfer the negative effects to Zhou Hai? He's my actual target. According to system rules, the price for exchanging the stand-in shadow is the mandatory extraction of Zhou Hai's fortune. Therefore, he cannot be selected by the ability." Also reminding the host, if the fortune extraction is not completed within 30 days, the negative effects previously transferred out will be returned to the host twofold. Hearing this, I shuddered. So this was no gift falling from the sky, but a man-eating loan shark. Then the sneakers exchanged last time. What price was paid for those? As I was pondering, the system's next words made me freeze instantly, providing the host with an additional piece of intelligence. Joe High is no ordinary person. As a reincarnator, he is already guarding against the system's mechanics, so please act as soon as possible. Bear the consequences of exceeding the time limit yourself. This system, it actually knew I was reborn. Upon learning I was a reincarnator, Zhang Feng was also surprised. Joe High was actually reborn? No wonder I felt he's been acting very weird lately. Say, why didn't you tell me earlier? I could have succeeded long ago. Information about reincarnators is hard to acquire. The system only discovered it recently. However, the intelligence he obtained from his past life is almost exhausted. Going forward, against you holding items, he has no advantage. Hearing this, Zhang Feng was overjoyed, but suddenly thought of something. But if I steal his fortune, what if he gets reborn again? Then wouldn't my efforts be in vain? System, give me another item, one that can prevent his rebirth. Such an item is an extreme drain on the system's energy. If the host fails to extract Joe High's fortune in time, it is highly likely to put the system into dormancy. Don't worry about it. As long as he can't be reborn, won't he be completely at my mercy? Seeing him so confident, the system said no more. A bottle of potion instantly appeared in midair. Make him drink this, and it will sever his rebirth loop. Even if he dies, he won't be able to be reborn. Hearing this, my heart sank completely. If I couldn't be reborn, how was I supposed to deal with Zhang Feng, who had so many supernatural items? Because of this, I was in a daze the whole afternoon. Until dusk, I suddenly received a call. It was my mom. Her tone was very concerned. Little Joe, what's wrong lately? You haven't contacted home in a while. Have you run into some trouble? If there's any trouble, make sure to tell us. Mom and Dad will figure it out with you. Don't bear it all alone. Listening to my mom's words, I instantly fell silent. If I let Zhang Feng steal my fortune, the one suffering wouldn't just be me, but also my parents and relatives. So no matter how great the disparity in strength, I had no reason to give up resisting. After telling my family I was safe, I called Chui Chui right away. I quickly heard her voice. Brother Zhou, are you okay? I was just about to call you. Thanks to you last night, I was fine. Now I want to discuss our next strategy with you. From Chui Chui's words, I learned that on their side, they hadn't rested at all. Chui Chui stayed up all night to make several protective talismans to ward off evil arts, and flipped through all the notes Doctor he left behind, pondering ways to separate the system from Zhang Feng. Old Mo wasn't idle either, mobilizing his niece and his niece's husband who worked at the housing bureau, flipping through the entire city's urban construction archives, single-mindedly searching for clues to that abandoned ancient well. I suddenly felt my nose prickle. In my past life, when I fell into distress, everyone abandoned me. Now, living once again, I realized I was never fighting alone. Half an hour later, I rushed to the corner cafe opened by Old Mo's niece. As soon as I sat down, I relayed everything about last night and the contents I overheard, in full detail. After hearing it, Chui Chui immediately advised me, you absolutely cannot live in the dorm anymore. Zhang Feng might secretly spike your water with that potion at any time. Let's just stall him. He has a time limit. The longer we drag it out, the more anxious he'll get. And the more anxious he gets, the easier he'll expose himself. I agreed with her view too, but couldn't help a wry smile. Speaking of which, it's really absurd. A month ago, I was just an ordinary college student. Now, I'm surrounded by a beautiful sorceress and a ruthless guy bound to a system. And I myself became a reincarnator. It literally feels like a dream. There are plenty of crooked and evil things like this. My grandma spent her whole life studying these. It's just that you haven't been exposed to them before. I remember there's even an organization dedicated to researching these. Before she finished speaking, I suddenly received a call. It was Old Mo. That well, we finally found it. According to the intelligence Old Mo provided, the most likely location for this well was the mountain behind our school. I had a sudden realization. No wonder we couldn't find a clue searching the whole city. That area behind the school had an accident in the early years and was sealed off by wire fences long ago. Ordinary people couldn't get in at all. This time, if it weren't for Old Mo's niece's husband finding old promotional photos of the school, we wouldn't have found it at all. It really was right under our noses the whole time. But how did Zhang Feng get into the back mountain? Relying on the system? After thinking for a moment, I realized that to figure all this out, I had to go personally. Chui Chui got anxious instantly. No way. That's too dangerous. What if there are more powerful anomalies inside? But she couldn't sway my resolute attitude and could only grit her teeth. If you must go, fine. I have to go with you. With my talismans and skills, it's still better than you charging in alone. Just like that, we finalized the plan and immediately began executing it. First, I contacted a moving company and called several classmates saying I was planning to move out. I even contacted the counselor and submitted an application to live off campus. Sure enough, when Zhang Feng saw movers carrying bags and boxes out, he was completely bewildered. At first, he was somewhat suspicious, but after asking classmates and the counselor, he confirmed that I was making a run for it. So, he secretly followed the moving truck out of the school, wanting to find my rental apartment. He never expected that Chui Chui and I had already used the crowd as cover to slip back into school, hiding in an empty classroom on the top floor of the teaching building. When dusk arrived, the patrol guards downstairs changed shifts. Our chance to sneak into the back mountain had finally arrived. According to the intel Old Mo and I gathered, although the back mountain was sealed off, it wasn't impossible to enter. Near the school cafeteria, there was a section of wire fence that, due to road construction, had recently been temporarily removed. This also explained how Zhang Feng was able to enter the back mountain. For a while, he had been working part-time at the cafeteria. It was probably during that time he wandered into the back mountain by mistake and bound the system. Just like that, Chui Chui and I groped groped our way through the dark and soon arrived near the gap. Encountering no obstruction, we smoothly crossed over and entered the back mountain. At this time, Chui Chui took out a bell, closed her eyes, and felt its vibrations. Soon, a gust of wind blew past and the bell rang out. Chui Chui also opened her eyes. Go this way. The feng shui flows smoothly over here. There must be an underground cave. Listening to the bell chimes along the way, we constantly adjusted our direction. Finally, a dilapidated dry well appeared before us, but I didn't expect that the well had already been sealed off. Strange. In that streamer's memory, it wasn't sealed yet. Could it be that Zhang Feng did it later? But doing so doesn't make any sense. I also found it very strange and forcefully pushed the stone. It didn't feel very heavy. Should I push it open? Chui Chui nodded, while taking out an evil warding talisman, ready to counterattack at any moment. With a sudden burst of effort from me, the stone was pushed aside. However, at the bottom of the well was only a puddle of clear water. It couldn't be more normal. I picked up the copper coin, wanting to see if there were any anomalies. However, after looking through it was still normal. This was too normal. Even the moon reflected in the water was so round. Suddenly, I realized something was wrong. Today was clearly a crescent moon. How could the moon and the water be round? Before I could react, a black shadow flew out of the round moon onto the shore, charging straight at Chui Chui. I quickly pushed her away, but was caught by the black shadow myself. It yanked me into the well. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in a spacious stone chamber. Freezing water droplets seeped from the stone walls. From afar came the sound of flowing water. I didn't even need to think to know. This was probably the hidden chamber at the bottom of the well. I instinctively reached into my pocket, wanting to message Chui Chui, but found myself tightly bound. My phone was also nowhere to be found. At this moment, a familiar voice rang out. Zhou-hai, oh Zhou-hai, you've finally fallen into my hands. I saw Zhang Feng holding my phone, walking out from a dark corner. I knew it. As a reincarnator, you would definitely track down this well. So I kept a backup plan all along, leaving the black shadow in the well to stand guard. I never expected you'd actually be stupid enough to deliver yourself to my door. With that, he laughed heartily in triumph, admiring my miserable state. However, I was extremely disdainful. Is this it? Holding a cheat code like a system dropped from the sky, yet still living a life despised by all. Stealing takeout, scamming roommates. You know nothing besides playing dirty tricks. You are truly a complete and utter piece of trash. Zhang Feng instantly lost his temper. His face flushed bright red. What the hell do you know? I used to have a monthly living expense of 500 yuan. I was starving every day. I could only secretly come to the back mountain to dig up wild vegetables. As a result, I fell into this well. If I hadn't bound the system, I would have died long ago. I despise rich people like you the most. A wave of your hand is several months of someone else's living expenses. Who are you pretending to be? Now, your rebirth loop has been locked. In another 2 hours, the black shadow will drain all of your fortune. When that time comes, you can go live the miserable life I used to live. Meanwhile, by the well, Chui Chui was also pacing around in panic. The bell in her hand jingled wildly, but she still couldn't detect my aura. In her panic, she suddenly thought of something. Right, the brocade pouch. Grandma said, open it during a crisis. Now was the time. However, inside the brocade pouch, there weren't any talismans or secret scroll. There was only a yellowed slip of paper. Written on it was a string of phone numbers. As time ticked away minute by minute, the 2 hours were almost up. But Zhang Feng was suffering even more than I was, because during this time, I kept finding different ways to poke at his sore spot. From his freeloading food and being despised by the whole dorm, to his foot odor knocking out Li Hao, and then to stealing takeout, getting caught red-handed, and having his reputation ruined. Every word accurately pierced his weak points. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He clenched his fists tightly, about to punch me in the face. But when his fist was raised mid-air, he suddenly stopped. Then, he retracted his hand with a cold sneer. I have no need to bicker with someone who is about to be finished. Besides, you kid are full of wicked ideas. Who knows if you're intentionally provoking me? Give up. Before the fortune transfer is complete, I will absolutely not touch you. Soon, the water droplets on the stone wall dripped their last drop. Zhang Feng laughed loudly and opened his arms, greedily feeling the flow of fortune within his body. This is fantastic. I'm about to grow to 1.85 meters tall. My parents will also win the multi-million-dollar lottery. All the girls in school will revolve around me. And you, Zhou-hai, only have the destiny of becoming a beggar and eating garbage. But the next second, his laughter came to an abrupt halt. His face instantly turned deathly pale. I saw the fat on his body start to swell madly at a visible rate. His face instantly became covered in pustules. An unbearable stench emitted from his body, even worse than before. All the bad luck he had previously transferred out was currently backlashing onto him twofold. How is this possible? Didn't I complete the transfer? Why is there a backlash? Why is it impossible? Look closely again. What am I wearing on my feet? Only then did he realize that at some unknown point, I had swapped my shoes back to those fate-swapping sneakers. Two fate-swapping methods colliding together caused his task to directly fail. Under his rage, Zhang Feng struggled, wanting to beat me up, but at this time, I had already worn through the ropes. I directly smashed a fierce punch into his face. Under my iron fist, Zhang Feng went flying. He crashed against the stone wall with a muffled thud. Propping up his obese body, he struggled. Zhou-hai, I'll fight you to the death. With that, he roared and lunged at me. But now, suffering the backlash and covered in swollen fat, he struggled just to lift his leg. How could he be my match? I threw a few backhand punches and knocked him flat on the ground in just a few hits. He could only hold his head and wail. At this moment, I looked down at him from above, like looking at a rat. Zhang Feng instantly lost his mind again, shouting at me, Zhou-hai, don't get smug. I still have the system. As long as the system doesn't abandon me, I am the god of this world. At most, you can beat me up. You can't kill me. Once I recover, I will definitely make you die an even more miserable death than your past life. Just as he finished speaking, the heavy stone door was suddenly pushed open. I saw a group of people dressed in black uniforms, fully armed, filing into the room. They instantly surrounded us. Zhang Feng's eyes lit up instantly, putting on a pitiful act. He screamed at the top of his lungs, "Police comrades, help me! He kidnapped me. Now he wants to kill me. Hurry and arrest him." But the leader completely ignored him. He merely signaled a team member next to him, who took out a device and scanned him. The next second, the device flashed a red light. The leader's expression remained unchanged. "We are the Anomalous Affairs Countermeasure Bureau. You have illegally bound an illicit system and disrupted the order of reality. We are now taking you into containment in accordance with the law." Hearing this, the wild joy on Zhang Feng's face froze instantly. He stood there, completely dumbfounded. In the end, Zhang Feng was arrested by the Anomalous Affairs Countermeasure Bureau. Before getting into the vehicle, he even tried to run away, but the other side struck him directly with a stun baton, shocking him so hard he lost control of his bowels on the spot and was carried into the car. And I was rescued by them as well and brought to the nearest facility for testing. The test results showed that my rebirth ability had indeed disappeared. Now, I was just an ordinary person. However, this was a good thing. It meant I didn't need to be contained and could return home safely. At the same time, I also learned of the fate Zhang Feng might face for people like him who use systems to commit evil deeds. The Countermeasure Bureau possessed absolutely no sympathy. Amidst endless experiments, he would meet the end of his life. Towards this, I felt no sympathy at all. After all, from the moment he wanted to steal my fortune, all of this was something he brought upon himself. After I walked out of the facility, I saw Cui Cui already waiting for me at the door. Seeing me, she directly lunged over. "Thank goodness, Brother Zhou. You're alright. Thanks to our Cui Cui, I'm feeling completely refreshed right now. I feel great." Hearing this, she punched me lightly. "Stop being glib. Tell me, how are you going to thank me this time? Just treating me to a meal isn't enough. I want to go to the amusement park and go see a movie." I smiled mysteriously and took out 2 lottery tickets. "Whatever you want, even if you say you want to rent out the entire movie theater. We aren't afraid of the cost now." Before the operation, I also kept my wits about me and bought the lottery numbers that let Zhang Feng's parents win in my past life. After all, having been reborn once, I should at least enjoy it a bit, right? At this moment, the rising sun was shedding its gentle rays, and I knew my future, just like the sun, was rising high into the sky.